So this is a difficult video, and this is the second time I've shot it. I don't know whether I'm going to have to shoot it again, because it seems to put me on the side of the evildoers somehow, and yet I feel I have to speak about it. It's when I saw this article, officer sacked over unwitting receipt of indecent video. Now, I thought this looked interesting. I read just this article, and then I came into my office and looked for other news items about this incident, this case. And one of the things I came across was a video by We Have a Problem. And he got his source from a site called Rotten Politics. I'll put the We Got a Problem link to the video so you can see it himself. And of course, We Got a Problem is very angry about this, about the fact that a video featuring a child being abused was being circulated, and he got very angry about that. And of course, who sane wants to see something like that? But I think he got it wrong. And I just want to go over this with you, and perhaps I've missed something, but it very much looks to me like the police have chosen a sacrificial lamb here. And they're doing it to make a point which isn't getting at the problem that is deep within their system. One of the country's most senior black female police officers has been sacked after being convicted of unwittingly receiving an indecent image on social media. This article is in the Telegraph, by the way. Now, here we have, the fact they've put a black female, that's wrong anyway. That's not important. It's not pertinent to what's going on. Except, generally speaking, when people say female, there's somewhat less of a feeling of sexual abuse about it. And that's wrong, by the way. Females do that too. But I'm sure you understand what I mean when you hear about a man being found with pornographic images on his phone. It's not quite got the same shape as if a female is found with those sorts of images on her phone. There's something different about it. That may be wrong, but perhaps that's why they put the word female in there. However, that's also a side issue. Acting Chief Superintendent Novelette Robin Williams was convicted of possessing an illegal video sent via WhatsApp, even though experts said there was no evidence she'd viewed it. Well, actually, I think there was evidence she'd viewed it, and the evidence is to be found here. This is on the BBC website. Oh yeah, here it is. The jury was told she was one of 17 people to receive the 54-second clip via WhatsApp, and prosecutors had argued there was no way she could have missed its arrival in her inbox. Sorry, I just sneezed. They said a response sent to her older sister, Jennifer Hodge, saying, "Please call," was evidence that she wanted to discuss the content. And that looks that way to me as well, that she saw the video and she wanted to talk to her sister about it. Now, let's get back to the Daily Telegraph. Despite enjoying a 34-year unblemished career with Scotland Yard, she's now been sacked after a disciplinary panel found her guilty of gross misconduct. Now, what it looks like to me, it says here, she was one of 17 people in a WhatsApp group to be sent the clip with a message, this is from her sister, I suppose, expressing disgust and the hope that the person in the video would be found and punished. Okay, so the sister sent this clip like people frequently send. I'm sure this was what was going. It looks to me like this was what was going on in her mind. I find occasionally very disturbing pictures on Facebook of animal abuse. And it says, we've got to find the person who did this or whatever. That's what this looks like. Now, I believe that these images came from her boyfriend or fiancé or something. But again, he wasn't convicted of anything more than having them. And he could have got them from another source. I don't know the details of that, so I'll hold fire on that. But let's just start with the sister. She sent this to her sister saying something must be done. Now, what did her sister do? Nothing. And that is a bad thing. She obviously was a bit worried about what would happen if she reported this. I want to tell you a story, something that happened to me. I had a friend, she wasn't well. In fact, she was desperately ill, and she died a few years ago. This was about maybe 8 years ago. I went round to see her. Now, she couldn't get out that much, and she had become a great reader. And somebody gave her the name of a website where you could download all sorts of books. And she told me she downloaded one book and it took longer than she expected. And then when she opened it up, it was, as she said, a little girl being abused by a man in a lumberjack shirt. I'm assuming it's one of those plaid shirts. Anyway, I said, what did you do with it? And she said she deleted it, she put it in the trash, and then she emptied the trash. She didn't want to have anything to do with it. She said she watched about, I don't know, well, I think she said 10 seconds of it. This is all I got from her. But she just didn't want to see any more, and she threw it out. And then I said to her, but then you can't report it. And she gave me a look sort of like that. And of course, I knew what she meant. She was worried that if she reported it, she'd be in trouble with the police. They'd pick on her for having illicit and revolting images. I don't quite know what that man was doing to the little girl, but it was enough to shock her. And she had this dilemma, but she was far too ill to deal with something like that. And that's the problem, isn't it? You have something like that by mistake, and then you're afraid to report it to the police because anything to do with that, you're guilty by implication. And so, to a certain extent, although she was wrong, I can understand that police officer's reticence with regard to her own sister. I think because she knew it might not have been entirely altruistic. It could have been that she was worried that she would be also enmeshed in this disgraceful little clip just by knowing about it. And this is a problem. And this is what really caught me. I almost laughed. Assistant Commissioner Helen Ball, chairing the hearing, said it's about upholding the reputation of the police force as a whole. This from a police force that has ignored the rape of British children for the past 20 years, that only recently arrested a man who tried to detain someone who was abusing or who had tried to grope his daughter. This is a police force which has actually arrested fathers for going to fetch their little girls from upper rooms in kebab shops where they were being abused by multiple men. And this Helen Ball, Assistant Commissioner, is talking about upholding the reputation of the police force as a whole. What? What reputation does the police force have? Anyway, and that's why I think that We Got a Problem has it wrong here. I think they've been picking on this woman as an attempt to sort of cleanse themselves. But here, look, this is what the BBC item on this trial had to say. One of the things was an analysis here by Danny Shaw, Home Affairs correspondent. As the prosecuting barrister Richard Wright noted, this is a sad case for all those involved, particularly for Robin Williams, who could well lose the job she cherishes. Yeah, well, I think she has. She was the only one to be prosecuted of the 17 people who received the child abuse video. Yes, she certainly should have been punished in some way for not reporting it. But she wasn't an originator. She got it unrequested. You know, there has to be a difference. Just because this is a filthy thing, it doesn't mean she is to blame for it. Did it have to end up in a trial at the Old Bailey? He's saying. And he's saying that because he knows it didn't. Or could the superintendent have been dealt with through internal misconduct procedure, given her 36 years distinguished service? And yes, I think it should have been, especially since she does have 36 years of a spotless record. And it looks like she fell down here out of familial loyalty. It was wrong, as I keep saying. But as I say, I think she's a sacrifice. Just as an old-fashioned sacrifice didn't actually clear your sin, I don't think this sacrifice is clearing the sin of the police, actually. And then Danny Shaw continues, there is also a wider question for all of us about our legal responsibilities when we're sent material on social media that we haven't asked for. This case has demonstrated the risks of not reporting and deleting footage that contains illegal content. Well, yes, it demonstrates that whatever you do, you're at risk. She had not deleted those images, that clip, and it's obvious she hadn't done that because she was thinking about reporting it and she couldn't bring herself to do it. That's what it looks like to me. Could be wrong, but that's what it looks like. And the fact is that if you get an image like that on your phone or your computer and you see that it's something awful, how many people would actually report it to the police? how many people, like my friend, would just delete it and scrub as much as you could, because you don't want to get entangled in a whole set of accusations and implications from police who are trying to keep up the numbers on certain crimes and trying to hide from themselves the fact that they're persecuting people for passing jokes on Twitter. And as I say, fathers trying to protect their daughters, they feel they have to do something, so they get at somebody weaker, less able to defend themselves in some way. I don't blame my friend for chucking that video out, and maybe that's why I can't blame this woman so much, although I know she did the wrong thing, and certainly as a policewoman she should be disciplined for not reporting it. I'm afraid I understand, at least I think I understand, what was going on in her mind. And now apparently there were other clips as well, but there was only this one that she saw. So we shouldn't get everything all mixed up together. And well, that's it. That's my take on the situation. It's a difficult one. Okay. If you want to donate or contact, the information will be rolling over the Graniopteryx as I speak. Please like, subscribe and share, because it does help with the algorithm. If you visit my channel on YouTube and one day discover that I've disappeared without warning, you'll still find me on BitChute or Minds. Just go to either of those platforms and do a search for Graniopteryx. If you're already watching this on BitChute or Minds, good for you. Meanwhile, if you're watching this on YouTube, remember that you must keep checking the subscribe and bell icons, because occasionally they reset. Till next time.